Welcome to our first episode of the Future PathFinders Podcast, a student-led podcast building a culture of youth success and entrepreneurship.
We are your co-founders, Michael Zaldivar and Alyssa Leon, and today we will be talking about basically the basics of our program and what we strive to achieve with this podcast and how we hope to inspire children, adults, anyone really lost in what they want to do career-wise or educationally. To introduce ourselves, my name is Michael Zaldivar. I am a junior now, gonna be a junior in Madder Lakes Academy. I am 15 years old, so I started pretty early when it came to school. But I started this program for a few reasons. Well, I helped start this program because it was a group effort between me and Alyssa. But I helped start the program because for a lot of my youth, for a really long time, I was very lost on what I wanted to do. And that's not to say that I didn't want to achieve things, because I really did strive to be as successful as I could in my classes and stuff like that. But I was lost career-wise. Now, thankfully, I have a passion for engineering and music, so we'll see which of the two career options I choose. But and that came a lot from looking at sources online and talking to people who are truly in the industry. And I was very fortunate to have that because not a lot of people really could have the accessibility to talk to people in that field, you know? So that's why we decided to start the podcast, to try to make it so children, teenagers, young adults, they could also have, they could have a version of the same conversations I had with people, and so they could get gain an understanding of what they want to do career wise, or what they want to do even when it comes to youth projects like starting a nonprofit or starting a podcast like this one and stuff like that. So Alyssa, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Well, I think you just captured it all, even in your experience. You and your idea to start this podcast really showcases our mission as to why we want to do this in the first place. So thank you for sharing. A little bit about me. I'm also an upcoming junior at Madder Lakes Academy. Um, I am a dual enrolled student, meaning I do high school and college at the same time. I just started about a year or two ago in the summer, and it's been something that has been one of the most transformative experiences of my life, not only academically, but as a student, as a friend, as a daughter. It's really helped me build self-accountability and responsibility, and it's helped me help others my age set an example of youth success. And a little bit about my background. I participate in a lot of community service outside of school. Mainly, I volunteer at Virtutum Populo, a nonprofit organization, as outreach director. And I've been there for about 4 to 5 months, and we focus on bringing civic literacy to youth across Miami Dade and beyond. I'm also very happy to co-found this podcast with Michael, and to share what I've learned with others, because I feel like we rise by lifting each other up. Yeah, it's just a little bit about me.
Wow.
What about our mission for
You stated
podcast?
you stated everything. You stated like the credentials. You put it all there. You had to make sure it was known to everyone. That's good. That's good.
It just,
The
I
professional.
had to.
You had to show the professionalism. You qualified for this.
My PR team really kicked off today.
Yeah. We had to talk to our PR team that we totally 100% have right with
Yeah,
us. Yeah, you know.
right now.
All right. So, there's a few topics we have kind of at hand, and maybe we'll have different opinions on this. We haven't really discussed this off the podcast at all, just our topics. So, maybe this will make for some good discussion. But
Yeah, of course.
um, let's kind of get into this. What exactly do you think youth success looks like to you.
Um, I think, and this is something that I always champion for within my life or like on my social media presence, because I know that social media is a big deal to the youth audience. Um, Youth success looks like the journey that everybody takes to maximize their potential. There's not a specific end goal. There's not a specific like maximal point of success that one person can achieve, at least in my opinion. I believe that youth success looks like a youth person trying their hardest to contribute back to their society and to their education to move forward. I think youth success is very dynamic because a lot of people can interpret that in different ways. But a lot of people end up using what they know to inspire and motivate others to do the right thing and to do good things for themselves. So I think youth success is all about a group effort, and knowing your strengths and weaknesses while you go through a roller coaster of life, so that you can achieve um, potential. Since growth isn't a linear process. And what about you, Michael?
That was very well said. That was very well said, you know. Very well said. Let's see. My definition of youth success, I feel like it would be pretty similar to what you said, that there's not really a, I wouldn't say not point, because sometimes there is point in comparing yourself when it comes to like, you know, how much effort are you putting in, but this comes to like classes and stuff like that, you know, and sometimes it's very limited too. Like it's not for everyone, but I feel like youth success, when it comes to individual success, I feel like, yeah, it would definitely come into how much effort are you putting into yourself? How much effort are you putting into giving back for others what they've done for you? And really, I feel like a very important part of it is also how much effort you're putting in to be the best you possible. And this comes when it comes to
Hmm.
school, when it comes to as a person, when it comes to being charitable, when it comes to being nice to people, when it comes to being humble. These are some things that, you know, everyone struggles with. We're all human. We all are struggling with something. But I feel like success would be putting one foot in front of the other, and just like, you know, trying to get by day, you know, be a little bit better of a person, learn just a little bit more, even if it's a small thing, even if it's like, oh, I learned a new technique on how to hammer something into a wall, you know, you still are learning something, you're still being successful in gaining knowledge. And also, I mean, helping out like your parents, or helping out like your grandparents, or even an old lady across the street, or even some kid at your school that you don't even know. I feel like being successful emotionally would definitely be helping those people who you don't even know yourself. I mean, for example, like there really is no connection between who you, for example, let's say for us, for example, I'm not saying that we're particularly the most successful out there, but I'd say that it always, that you have to strive to be. And there's not really a connection between our listeners, right? Other than maybe our age range, or maybe what they want to study. But still, you have to try to make an effort and pass on what you're good at. The only way everyone gets a little better at something is if everyone helps everyone become just a little better at something, no matter what it is. So I think, to summarize, basically, you know, to go over the points, I feel like, yeah, success would be how much effort and how well you try to help others, how well you try to present yourself, how well you try to learn, how well you try to strive to be the best person to reach your maximum potential. That's successful. No matter the age, that's successful.
Yeah. And I like that you make that point because I think that both of our points about what makes a youth generation successful go hand in hand with one another. First, starting and evolving on yourself, treating yourself, loving yourself,
Very
um,
important. Very important.
making yourself responsible to handle things, to then, bring back what you've learned to the community. So I think that's very wise.
Yeah.
Um,
Accountability too, I think, is something that shows something of a success as well when it comes to maybe maturity in several aspects. Like, I didn't do good in this class. Well, you have to also take accountability. There's one thing, it's like, oh, I tried my best, and you really tried, and you studied, and you did what you had to do. That's accountability. That's saying, hey, I tried my best. I couldn't. I couldn't do it. I made mistakes, but that's okay, and I'm gonna learn from them. That is a sign of success. Because one thing is also, you know, maybe you are not the best at school, but you're not accountable. You're just like, oh, I failed because I don't know, the air was too cold. I was too cold and I couldn't concentrate, and it was over for me. But I mean, when you look behind it, the person wasn't putting in the effort. It's really accountability when it comes to don't expect more out of something than you put in. That
of
because
course.
no matter what it is, even if it's just a smidge, that's being successful in my eyes. You don't have to be, you know, super popular or this math virtuoso, this genius or this musical virtuoso. I feel like a lot of it is just, you know, holding yourself to study and to try your best, truly try your best, not say, oh, I tried and that's it, but to truly dedicate yourself to something. That I feel is an a massive example of success, no matter the age, no matter anything.
I think that's so real because I think if we go outside the scope a little bit of the question, how do you get to youth success or how do you build your youth success, in my opinion, is first surrounding yourself with people who are focused, who are determined, who do and perform exceptionally in the areas that you want to grow in. So emotionally, academically. That's how my story was actually. When I was in my freshman year, I didn't do that great in school because I had pressures from school, socially, but I also had pressures at home and like with like in life as we all do. So I think my first step to changing my outlook on life and my desire for more and wanting more and being part of spaces where decisions are made for youth was me, diving in and taking advantage of that with the friend groups that I chose. So I chose friend groups that were purposely academically inclined, people who wanted to pursue more than just the average, people who um, wanted to pursue a positive outlook on life as well. And I think that's really important if you want to maximize your potential since it's limitless. So yeah, that's something that like really just sparked and caught my attention from what you said. Um, and that's a little outside the scope, but that's how you build your success. And I feel like this is what the podcast is about.
Certainly, certainly. I feel like to an extent, um, the well as if you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you or people that are more, they're more willing to do something, you will naturally want to pick up those same habits, regardless. That was actually kind of my case. Um, I'm not a particularly, you know, incredible student from the beginning. I had to really try and work my butt off to get to the grades that I have today. And even now, I'm still putting in the work. It's like an instrument. Like you can,
Preach.
I mean, you have to continuously just be practicing at it, and you have to continuously try to, surround yourself with people, because it's like it's like it's like working out, or yeah, to put it, yeah, in that way. Growth doesn't happen. It happens in plateaus. It happens in eras. There's an initial where you start to surround yourself with certain people and you start to build habits and you start growing a little bit, but then you have a plateau, right? And that's normal. That's natural. It's natural to have plateaus and growth. And then all of a sudden, you just whoop, it started going up a little bit higher, and then just a little bit higher, and then like that. And from there, especially when it comes academically or even as a person, there is no limit to how much you can grow as a person. There truly is no limit, I think.
When people in like this is like that's true because when I was like in elementary school and the teachers would tell us the sky's the limit, I was like, no, the hell it ain't. Like you can go forward. You can go forward and you can do so much more. And I think that, realizing that yeah, you look up and it's miles and miles away, this beautiful blue sky. It's just, a little layer to something much bigger.
Exactly.
So I think that's really important. Um to move on to the next question,
Yeah, we're getting
I
we're
think
getting
that
we're
this
getting a
is
little
my
bit off
favorite.
topic. We're getting a little bit
Yeah,
off
yeah.
topic.
To move on to the next question, how do you see yourself? Actually, no, that's not what
How
it
do you
says.
see the future?
Yes. To move on to the next question, how do you see the future of youth initiatives being empowered today? You want to take a crack at it?
I mean, since you asked the question, I feel like it's only fair that I have to answer it. But this is a question that that I have to really think about. I have to really think about. You know what? I
Take
think
your
it's
time.
better. I think it's better. I think it's better for our listeners, right? To immediately gain the satisfaction of hearing an answer, because that's what they're here for. We don't want to waste their time. So since this one's your favorite, I'll let you go at it. I'll let you go at
That was such a long response just to say I don't know right now. We could text about this later. That's exactly.
it.
How do you see the future of youth initiatives being powered today? Empowered today? Well, I think I see a lot of youth being empowered in many ways. So to talk about just one aspect of that, could be an episode of its own. Stay tuned. But
Mhm.
um, I think I see the future of youth and their initiatives being empowered is through education and through policy and advocacy. I think because we students gain the keys to freedom, to like intellectual freedom when you give them the opportunity and the stage, like at schools or at nonprofits or through advocacy. And I think policy puts those motivations in action. I see a lot of the future of our youth initiatives in South Florida happening from youth. They're taking advantage, they're taking a risk, not knowing how to start a nonprofit, not knowing how to make a podcast, how to make a blog, and they're going into content creation because it's the thing of our generation. Technology is our generation.
Yeah, yeah.
So the future of youth initiatives, I'm seeing them being empowered by people that are in positions, whether they're in the local government or in county government, maybe even state government, uh, in enforcing policy that benefits students in the long run. Now, there's some policy here and there that may not be as uh,
Effective?
effective. Yes, effective for students, especially like in the ways that a lot of, especially with the barriers that a lot of students face when they need to get opportunities, whether that be an economically or socially disadvantaged way, that they can't reach an opportunity. Um, I think that wholeheartedly something that's very consistent is the older generations preparing the youth for what's coming, and maybe the older generations don't know how to use technology. I'm not calling anyone boomers here or anything, or saying that like old people can't use technology, because they sure can and they've adapted to it. um but I think the future of youth is has to start with the older generations before us, like educating us, and encouraging us to go forward, because if no one gives us that push forward, then we won't be in the seats that they currently fill. Um, the future of youth initiatives being empowered today stem from people who care and reach out to youth, directly, indirectly, and through policy. So that's how I see the future of youth being empowered today. And I've seen a lot of people, I've heard a lot of stories, countless stories of youth starting their own initiatives, uh, changing their ages so that older audiences, like adults, can respect them better, or put some respect on their initiative or their project. And that's very discouraging to me at the start, but then that just reminds me that when you're at rock bottom, the only way to look is up. So
Mm-hmm.
you're more motivated to reach an end goal, to impact hundreds of people around where you're at. So I think the future relies on the older generation and involving the youth and informing them, but also at the same time, youth stepping into these roles and positions that they're made for.
Hmm. That's interesting. I I can see your point on that, especially when it comes to policies and to government and stuff like that, which is something that I'm not really all too familiar with. I tried my hand at like constitutional law and like some law here and there, but like that never really stuck with me. And I know that you're really into that, so that's an interesting take, especially when it comes to positions of policy. And I do think that there will definitely be when there comes a time when youth initiatives are become adult initiatives, really, because hopefully some of them stick around and they do actually make large changes in policies that really do you know better affect, if that's the right word. They better help people. And I I think that when that time comes, there will be a big change when it comes to policies and stuff like that. Like you will definitely see, once like our generation starts getting into uh, positions of power, you will definitely see stuff like that, especially when it comes to school, when it comes to stuff like that being a lot more, you know, being a lot more embraced, almost, if that's the word. But
Yeah.
another take that I have on it, that's not specifically when it comes to government itself, I think that there will come a point very soon, or even right now actually, where the generation will realize that we have so many things going for us. We have so many different technologies. No, and I feel like even the most disadvantaged of us have more advantages than people really did, say, 50 years back. Um, and I feel like people will take risks, and you know, nothing to you in life is guaranteed. And a lot of life is just taking risks. And if you know how to manage those risks, then youth initiatives will be like, wow, there's so much competition here. But look at all the resources we have. I really think that if we take a risk and we take a chance so we can help people, so we can truly make a difference, I feel like it will open up a cascade. It will be like breaking the Hoover Dam and letting like the flood of real change and real help come when it comes to young people.
Mm,
But
yeah.
yeah, let
We
me ask
can.
you this then. Let
I
me ask
think.
you this. Oh,
Wait,
okay.
but
Actually, go ahead. Go ahead. Go
okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, no. Actually, you first. You first.
No, 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 no. No. I insist. Actually, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. So now that we've like kind of discussed how we see the future of youth, and their like initiatives, projects, small businesses, nonprofits, you name it, being empowered today, we can't just sit here and talk about how they're being empowered by every outside factor. Let's talk about how we will go about empowering them. Um, Michael, how do you think, or like, what factors um, are you going to take to empower youth around your area, around your school, county, state, or in the nation?
Well, I feel like that's a very good question. I feel like right now what we're doing is at least my attempt um at doing such a thing, at empowering young people, empowering even adults, who maybe are lost and guided, and they're like, you know what? Let me just take advice from a teenager, maybe see what he has to say. You know? I feel like at that point you're hitting pretty much rock bottom. But for other teenagers, you know, we are brothers and sisters in arms. We are here to help each other, and succeed higher. So I feel like with the podcast, I'm trying to bring knowledge, and I'm trying to open up the eyes of people who are soon to be going to college, and they're going to be making a major investment. And I feel like we shouldn't be having kids who, with our current school system, are, they're not really the most actively engaged, I would say. And I feel like if we bring a new form, or at least a short snippet of an explanation of what their future careers or interests will look like, then they can better make a decision. And genuinely, like, the more happy people are with their careers, the better they do them, and the better someone does their career, the better they help people. So it really, it's happiness brings productivity, brings help to others, and it's just a full circle. And I really hope that maybe this podcast, maybe if it doesn't make a big change, it will inspire somebody out there to make an even bigger change than what we're trying to accomplish here.
Absolutely. I think that definitely this podcast, I have high hopes for it. I think that, and I like having this conversation and discussion with you. So I really hope that we can continue this in the future, maybe even after college, if that's feasible.
Oh, of course,
Um,
yeah.
but
Be awesome.
the ripple effect that will happen to students that will watch this or listen to it, will be much bigger than the effect that we're having now, because we're having an effect on the people listening, motivating them, encouraging them, and providing future resources in our newest episodes, um, to write their story, right? And to
Hmm.
focus on what they want to focus on. But
Exactly.
I feel like the people, what they're receiving out of what we're saying is gonna actually drive them to change. It's gonna make them go into that center that they were afraid to go to stand up in front of a classroom and give their um, solicited opinion on something, whether that be like a class presentation. Because I know a lot of people, that's just an example, but a lot of people who are scared of public speaking. And that's been a struggle for me too, not gonna lie. But I think, practice doesn't make perfect, but practice makes way better than you did the first time.
Hmm.
So, just repeated practice and dedication is what's going to come out of this podcast, which I'm very excited about. But how will I go about empowering people in youth my age? Well, I like advocacy and I like social justice, but aside from that, I think pursuing, like, doing what I'm doing now, pursuing academia, pursuing uh law, um to advocate for people on paper, or like through transactional work, or through litigation when I'm an attorney, hopefully,
Hopefully,
in the
no, no. What do you
future.
mean,
Yes.
hopefully? Of course, you will be an attorney. What do you mean, hopefully? Who's hoping for anything?
Yes.
When I will be an attorney later
When
on
I
in the
will
future.
be my bad. When I will be an attorney in the future, I'm working so I can achieve that, so I can help others in that way. But for right now, I think what I'm going to do is, number one, continue with this podcast
Yeah.
promo. But um I think just encouraging kids at my school and my friends to work better, holding accountability, like how you said earlier, with people in my school, being that person that is a delegate and that brings a positive school environment, a school spirit, if you would.
Hmm.
Um, and I also think just, being involved, being engaged, going the extra step when maybe it wasn't like asked for in the beginning, going the extra step, going the extra mile because you can, right?
Of
And I
course,
think
of course.
by doing that, you're leading by example.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And what we need now more than ever is people who are trying to lead, to really truly lead people on a better and on a bright path, on a hopeful future. And I feel like that really truly starts with young people, because young people eventually get older and eventually they become those wise figures that people look up to, and I feel like if we nurture that innate I made that innate passion that our youth has, especially when it comes to technology and stuff, we could revolutionize many things. We could revolutionize the way we learn, the way we see the world, and maybe these are just outlandish, but I really think that truly, like,
No, no,
in our youth,
no.
this is where it starts, this is
It's
where
not outlandish.
where
It's
we
not
look back.
outlandish.
That's why when we look back, maybe like 40, 50 years in the future, we'll say like, wow, look how far we've come. Look how far we've come because of the people in our society, because no matter the society, no matter if they're boomers or if they're Gen X or Gen Z or Gen Alpha, everyone will have an impact in one way or another. And I feel like trying to make people have a good impact on the world, not just an impact. It's like, oh, I'm an impact, it's a good impact. I at the end of my life, I really said I tried my best and I tried for people. And look, if everyone tries just a little bit, even just a smidge, the world would be a heck of a lot better place, in my opinion, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I don't think that there are any outlandish ways to think. I actually think that if your dreams kind of scare you, if your dreams may look so big that everybody might be like, Alyssa, please, like no, like that's está pasando. Like no, keep on dreaming and keep on doing. That's you can dream about what you want to do. You can dream, you can dream, you can dream, but you have to work and you have
Of
to work
course,
to achieve those dreams.
of course,
Um
of course.
and I completely I don't know why I didn't mention this earlier, but and this is not a promo. Empowering people also uh the act of like empowering others also means represent being a representative of them. So representing your community where you go in the world, wherever you go. Represent yourself, but you also represent your people back home and your culture and your beliefs, your values, and what you take a part of.
Yeah.
I remember I went to the National Student Leadership Conference back last month actually. And I went to Georgetown, and on one of the field trips we went to the Supreme Court of the United States. And in that field trip there, I was almost speechless. You can ask any of my friends that were there with me. I was just soaking it in. I kept on saying, I can't speak right now. Like I'm soaking all of this in because that is the epicenter of like justice and precedent and history. Um,
And it will be
at
the
our
future too.
at our
And it'll be
nation,
and it'll be the future too.
it will be the future. That's where that it was crazy to think that like me in my community back at home where maybe we don't get a lot of exposure everywhere else in the world in like the national view
Hmm.
because this nation's completely diverse and so is South Florida, but being up there like at the center of justice at the Supreme Court of the United States where decisions are made on the behalf of the Supreme Court justices for all of the United States, that was crazy. And I felt like I had to and I still feel this way now. I still felt like I had to represent my communities back at home, my families, first gen students, people from my school, because that's not something that, unless you're living in Washington D.C. and you pass by on your way to work every day, that's not what people see all the time. And it's a building, but it has a lot of like sentiment to it, and it really like it impacted me. So being part of empowering the youth is also, representing it and owning up for mistakes that you've made, or your community um has endured, or like, just being that person to step up and being willing to represent and to rep it, because there's no one else like you in that world, and there's no one else like your own community. There's no other community like your own.
I mean, and this
um
this ties in a
yeah.
lot to also what we were talking about with what youth success looks like, and how like the way you portray yourself and the way you represent others is very important because you know
Hmm.
it no one would really know that you are trying to, maybe the word wouldn't be represent in that case, but you are a representation of them. Say a person has never met, I don't know, a Hispanic person before. I don't know. They're come from, I don't know, the Philippines, let's say, and they now come, and then you're the first person they've connected on a one-on-one level with, and you are just very nice, you're very charitable, you try to teach things in a humble manner. That's like, wow. I mean, these people must all be like this her community must be all great people, and that's what youth success looks like. You made a uh you as a young person, you made a successful, good impression on somebody. You you carried yourself in a manner that really helps unify those around you, even those who are, maybe they're of a different culture, but you unified these diverse groups of people together, just with only simply your actions.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I totally agree.
So yeah, you definitely made some great points there, and I'm really happy I've had this conversation with you because this isn't really something we've quite talked about. It was some interesting topics we had in mind that we wanted to put on paper. More specifically, you more than anything, because you you really like all these topics and stuff, and I was like, Alyssa's a guy. Alyssa's the girl for this, just what do you have to say? What do you find interesting? And then I gave my input here, but it really was a good conversation. I think it was very fruitful.
Yeah, yeah, Michael. I definitely think that this discussion, I think we can find ourselves talking about this after like crazy
Of
because
course, yeah, definitely.
um because we definitely like we're picking each other's brain at different aspects of conversation. But I definitely love this conversation, and I love what these type of discussions will have on our podcast in the future. I know that this podcast will be a successful podcast because of our
Definitely, it will.
listeners,
It will.
and
It
because
will be. It will 100% be.
it will. It will. Our listeners, our executive team, and you and I are the co-founders. Will make this a really good podcast, and so I think this conversation was really great. So thank you for having me here. I guess.
Definitely, 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 definitely. Well, that brings us to, the end of our podcast, really. Unfortunately, though I would love to continue on more, but it's gonna get late soon, so we gotta go to sleep a little bit. But real quick, just for people who are still listening, if you guys want to get featured on an episode, please reach out to us on our Google form, on Instagram through the Future Finders Podcast, to get featured. And anyone who would want to maybe hopefully find a position in our podcast, please also reach out to us too. There are also people who we will eventually try to reach out to, people that we personally admire, me and Alyssa, you know, and we will try to reach out to you guys, and hopefully we can get a a good relation from all these youth initiatives and all these wonderful people who are really trying to make a difference in the world. and hopefully we'll be able to interview them and pick their brain about how they got into what they did and what they recommend for the youth out there.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I think adding us on our Instagram is a good start. At Future PathFinders Pod on Instagram. So that you can get the latest updates on when we have new releases, episode releases. So go add us on our Instagram at Future Pathfinders Pod, and in our link tree you can find a Google form to uh, apply for an episode feature and to become a part of our executive team. We'd love to have people from all over um, the community, our global community, subscribing and helping us out in this journey. This is just the first step to many more. Um, so, yeah, so thank you for whoever's listening right now, and
Of
go
course,
check out our Instagram and those opportunities.
definitely.
So yeah, thanks, Michael. Thanks for a great episode.
No, no, thank you. This has been amazing. It's been amazing. This will be great
Okay.
to speak with our editor, and we'll try to we'll try to see if this isn't a pain in the butt for him to edit out in the end.
Thank you for listening for our first episode of the Future Pathfinders Podcast, a student led podcast building a culture of youth success and entrepreneurship. Feel free to subscribe to our podcast channel to get more updates on future episodes and also follow us on our social media. Um, Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you guys. Thank you, the viewers. All right.
Yeah,
Well, this is us signing out then. All right. See you guys.
see ya.